Hey guys, it's Heather. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you this hair and makeup look and my outfit that I did for my recent maternity shoot. I wanted to do something very fall inspired, something that could transition well outside from like a park setting to a beach setting. And I wanted to go with colors that really complemented the fall and all the beautiful colors outside this time of the year. So I'm hoping to have the pictures ready soon. If I do, I will definitely insert them into the video. If not, go check out my Instagram at Organization Beauty Nation. So go ahead and follow me over there. Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through all the makeup that I did, the hair, and I'll share with you the dress details. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is prime my skin. Normally I don't wear a primer every day, but in this case, I wanna make sure that my pores look as smooth and more invisible. So I'm gonna use the Cover FX Blurring Primer. This stuff has a super smooth and silky texture to it. So before I go in with foundation, I'm just gonna take a little bit of concealer and kind of pay attention to these darker areas that I have from the pregnancy and just make sure that they are nice and covered before I go in with the foundation. And I'm gonna use my Maybelline Cover Stick in the shade Medium Beige and just kind of cover that on all of my more problem areas. Then I'm going to take a small little foundation brush and just blend that in. And then sometimes I'll just use my finger and kind of just blend it into the skin. Doesn't have to be perfect, just to give it like a little bit of a base and more coverage on those darker areas. So for foundation, I want something that's definitely full coverage and that's also going to stay in place and last. So I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Infallible Total Cover. This is one of my favorite drugstore full coverage foundations. I talk about this all the time, and then I'm going to just mix in a couple of drops of this number 7 foundation drops. This is just going to kind of soften up any of that matte stiff look, and it just makes it look a little bit more satin-like. So I'm in between the 303 and the 305 right now, so I'm just going to mix all of these together onto my hand. Make a little concoction and then a couple of drops in the shade Warm Ivory and then just mix that in together. I'm gonna apply a generous amount to my face because I really want a full coverage look and I don't want any of my problem areas kind of peeking through. So blending that in now with a Morphe flat foundation brush. This is the E6. And I just like to kind of blend it in, but not so much where I'm really scrubbing it in. I like to just kind of pat it over the skin. So then that way I get the most out of the coverage and it looks more airbrushed when you're just kind of stippling it into the skin. And I also go ahead and take it onto my lids and up by my eyebrows as well. I just like everything to be all one shade. And then I also just push it up into my hairline and just kind of drag it down the neck. So I like to wait just a minute or so to kind of let that tackiness settle before moving on to concealer. So then that way it kind of just all melts in and I'm not moving any of the foundation around. So for concealer, I want a lot of coverage. I want something that's not gonna crepe. I want something that's not gonna accentuate any fine lines. So I'm going to be using the Tarte Shape Tape. I'm going to be mixing in light medium honey and light sand. And I'm going to use it to just conceal under the under eyes, just to get some more extra coverage and add more dimension to my face. So I'm going in with the medium honey first and just applying a little bit under my eyes. And then I'm going in with the light sand, more so in the inner corners, just to kind of add that brightness. And then I'm going to take my Flower Sponge Beauty Blender and just press that into my under eyes and make sure it blends all together. And I also like to go up into my lid as well. So to set my under eyes and the rest of my face, I'm going to be using the IT Cosmetics. This is the Bye Bye Pores Pressed Powder. I really like this. If you have a special event, if you're just using it every day, you can get something from the drugstore that works pretty much just as good. But I definitely wanted to use this just to kind of give more of that extra coverage, just so that I know that everything sets nice and it looks really pretty in the pictures. So I'm just taking my e.l.f. small taper brush and I'm just setting down my under eyes and also where I'm going to be putting my eyeshadow down. Set those smile lines. And then I'm going to be taking a big fluffy brush and set down the rest of my face. And this one is the Morphe E41. And I'm just going to stamp some powder all over my face. I'm not going to get too crazy with the amount of product because I don't want it to be completely matte, but I definitely want to make sure that it's set down enough so that when I apply my bronzer and my blush, that it applies really easy and there's no patchiness. Moving on to bronzer, I like to use this ColourPop in the shade Private Party. It's a really nice shade just to kind of contour, and I like to use this fan brush. This one is by Crown, but it's a big fan kabuki brush and just works really good for kind of just carving out your cheekbones, getting around your hairline, and just doing like a powder contour. So I'm gonna put some of that on this brush. I'm gonna blend up into my hairline and then the tops of my cheekbones, and then also around the bottom of my jawline. Gotta have that neck looking skinny for these pictures. And then I just kind of feather it down my neck. So to warm up my skin a little bit more, I'm going to be using a baked bronzer by Milani. This one is in the shade Dolce. It does have a little bit of streaking and like a little bit of shimmer to it, but it's a really pretty bronzer and you can find it at the drugstore. So I'm just going to kind of go over all the areas that the sun would naturally hit my face and then also blend it down into my neck. So for blush, I'm going to be using MAC's Melba. It's a really pretty shade, pretty much for all year round. It's gonna look nice because it's gonna warm up the skin. It's gonna give you a little bit of a flushed look, but it's not gonna clash with the fall colors that I'm gonna be using on my eyes. It just complements it really nice. So I'm just gonna pack that onto my EcoTools blush brush and kind of just like very softly almost tap it up into the bronzer, into the hairline to just create like a really soft, flushed look. I'm also gonna put a little bit on my forehead, just like a little dusting. And then a little bit just on the top of my nose, so it looks like I was hit by the sun. So for highlight, I'm actually gonna use two. I'm gonna use ColourPop in the shade Wisp, and I'm just gonna press it down onto the tops of my cheeks. And then to add an extra pop, I'm gonna use one of my favorites, especially for the fall time and when you're doing anything with more of like a bronzy or neutral or earth tones. This is the Champagne Pop, and it's just a really pretty like gold, and I think it just complements this look really well. So I'm gonna go in with the Wisp first and just apply a little bit of that to the high points of my cheeks. I'm also gonna put a little bit down the center of my nose. Just kind of stamp it on there. It's just such a nice highlight on its own too. Kind of gives you like that wet, kind of dewy, glowy appearance. So I'm gonna be taking my favorite highlighting brush. This is the Real Techniques small tapered brush, I think. No, I'm sorry, it's a setting brush, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of product on and just kind of do a nice dusting over exactly where I just applied all of the highlight, a little bit down the nose, a little bit on the cupid's bow. Okay, so before we move on, I'm gonna do a little MAC Prep and Prime on my skin just to make sure everything's kind of melted in and it's really gonna make the makeup pop. So moving on to eyes for this look, I use the e.l.f. The New Classics palette. It is super affordable. It is drugstore. It's probably the best palette that I found at the drugstore thus far. There's lots of neutrals, and then there's some other fun pops of color. But first, I'm gonna prime my lids just a little bit with the Urban Decay Primer Potion, just to make sure everything is one color and there's no redness or anything like that. And this will just help to prolong the eyeshadow. So the first shade I'm gonna go in with for the transition is gonna be the shade Truffle. And I'm gonna apply that all over the transition area with a soft, fluffy blending brush. And I'm just gonna do little circles and windshield wiper motions just to get the product down. And I wanna be leaving my lid nice and blank. Now this does have a little bit of a kickback, so when you put your brush into the pan initially, there is going to be a lot of product, so you just have to be careful there. But this palette is really nice. It does blend really, really well for drugstore. I'm just trying to mimic and elongate kind of the shape of my eyes. So at the outer corner, I'm just doing those circular motions and then almost making like a V. just to kind of accentuate the natural shape of my eye. So now that we have a nice transition, I'm gonna go in with the shade right next to it. It is called Darling, into the whole crease area. And I'm just gonna be using a smaller, still a very fluffy brush, but this one's just a little bit more precise. And I'm just gonna focus that only in the crease just to deepen that up. And I'm just gonna be doing tons of back and forth motions just to make sure that's really, really nice and blended. I don't want any harsh lines. Moving on, just in the outer V area, I'm gonna be taking the shade Earth right here, and I'm gonna be using a Morphe M321 brush. You want something that's really precise, that's gonna stay like just in that outer V, and that's not gonna get anywhere else. So using a more precise, concentrated brush will definitely make that technique a lot easier. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of Earth onto this brush here, and it's a lot easier to start with less, and you can always add more. And I'm just gonna focus that just in the outer V area. And I'm just gonna pack that down. My right eye is always so much easier for me to do than the left. The left takes a little bit more of patience and a little bit more blending. And then I'm gonna go in with that small tapered fluffy brush and just kind of go back into the crease, go back and forth, make sure there aren't any harsh lines or edges, and that everything just blends in seamlessly. So moving on to the first lid shade, we're gonna go in with this really fun color, and it is Gilded right here. I am gonna put a little bit of Fix Plus, and I'm just gonna use my finger to apply it so that it will really kind of pop and really make the eyes stand out. Just gonna put a little bit on my fingers here and just stamp that all over, concentrating on the inner corner and the midsection of the lid. And then I just kind of want it to like fade into the outer V color. I like using my finger because I just have more control on where the color goes. Moving on, I'm gonna take the shade Glamour right here, and I'm gonna put a little bit almost in like the mid to the outer lid area. I'm just gonna pat that on here. Now to line the top lash line, I'm gonna take a flat brush. I'm gonna go in with the shade Downtown right here, and I'm just gonna be wedging that along my lash line. For the lower lash line, I am going to dust the shade Darling just on the outer portion of my lower lash line. And then I'm gonna take the shade Cream, and I'm just gonna use it to highlight the inner portion. And then I'm gonna go in with the shade Blanc to highlight the inner corners. So for liner, I'm gonna use the Rimmel Scandal Eyes, and I'm just gonna do the lower waterline. Now to highlight the brow bone, since I forgot, we're gonna go in with the shade Creme up here. And I'm also going to add a little bit of the shade Blanc up top, just to really make the brow bone pop. I'm gonna take a break from the eyes, and I'm gonna do my lips. So for the lips today, for the lip liner, I'm gonna be using the Wet n Wild Gel Lip Liner, and this is in the shade Bear to Comment. And directly over top of that, I'm gonna go in with the L'Oreal Infallible Lip Paints in the shade Tongue Tied. And I'm gonna use Becca Glow Gloss as a lip topper. Just kind of tap that on. They have the best like lip toppers. So I'm just gonna fix up these brows a little bit now. I did already have them done a little bit, but I'm just going to fill in any sparse areas. So the last thing I'm gonna do is lashes, and I don't wear falsies or anything. So I'm just gonna curl my eyelashes just to make sure they are all pointing the same way and to give them a lift. I'm gonna go in with my lash primer. Now topping that off with my L'Oreal Lash Paradise. And I'm gonna finish my lashes off with some L'Oreal Telescopic. And to make sure everything lasts, I'm just gonna set my face with a little bit of all-nighter. So I'm just gonna go do my hair and then put the dress on, and then I'll be right back. So here's the completed look. I just used a 1.5 inch curling iron, a Hot Tools one on my hair. We did the shoot outside, so it was at like a park, and then we were at the beach, so I just kind of wanted something that was gonna be easy and that the weather wouldn't affect my hair and that kind of thing. So I just figured down with like a little wave was perfect, and then I really like the way the makeup came together with the dress. The dress I got from Pink Blush Maternity. It's so comfortable. It's very tight fitting, and then it has like a trumpet flare to the end. And like I mentioned earlier, if the pictures are ready, I will definitely insert them. But yeah, I hope that you guys like this look, and I hope that you found it helpful, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.